So today we're going to learn about the spatial monitoring and reporting tool, that is SMART. And we're going to learn about its application for improving the effectiveness of protected areas. We're especially interested in protected areas in the range of the snow leopard, but we're going to talk about examples from other places too in this presentation. So here are the presenters, and there's Michael, there's Samantha, who you'll see in future weeks, and Puji in the bottom left, Erdenet Solomon, Rab and Rohan, and Monica up the top right, who you met during the first part of our call this morning. So we are the presenters, and we're very pleased to be here with you, and it's really great to be part of the Snow Leopard Network. And if you're interested in contacting any of us, there are our emails under our names. And if you're not quick enough to take a screenshot, we're happy, we'll be giving a copy of the presentation to everybody. We'll be sharing that on the Google group with everyone. Okay, and yeah, just to note that everything that we present, we will make a copy of and share it with you. So you'll have a copy of all the presentations, all the materials that we share. All right, good. So yeah, this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to do an overview of the SMART tools. I'm going to do a demonstration, and then we're going to have some case studies. And then we'll have time for question and answers. So what is SMART? Yeah, so SMART is an approach. It's not just software, it's not just technology. It's more than that. It's capacity building, it's building skills, it's building ability to manage protected areas more effectively. It's standards. So how do we collect data? How do we manage data? How do we report data? SMART is all about these things and how we set standards for doing those important things. And it's also the tools. It's software and it's apps, and that is also a part of what SMART is. And the objective or the mission of SMART is to improve how we manage protected areas. And we're all about helping people to do that better. So this set of tools is about supporting practitioners like yourselves with the technology and the services and the skills to do your jobs more effectively. So the initial role of SMART was that it was designed as a tool for measuring and improving the way we do patrolling and to improve the quality of patrols and how data is managed. And at the same time to promote accountability and good governance on the part of the agencies and the organizations that are managing our wildlands and our wildlife. And at the same time, SMART was designed to set some standards for how we report and how we measure trends in wildlife and poaching and other threats. So the initial role of SMART was as a law enforcement tool, and it's evolved into much more than that. And I'll talk about that in the next few slides. So just to also mention that if you have any questions, please type your questions into the chat, all right? And we're going to collate all those questions and we're going to answer them at the end of our session here. So yeah, the basic features of the SMART software, it's a relational database. It's got powerful query and summary functions. It's designed to make data entry easy. It's possible to use mobile devices to collect data and to import data from those devices into the database. There's built-in mapping and spatial analysis ability that's linked to the queries. It's possible to run reports and to share information in a very straightforward way. So I'm going to talk in the next minute or two about how some of the features of SMART and some of the ways in which these features are used. So it's possible to monitor threats. It's possible to monitor poaching, illegal land clearance, habitat clearance, wildlife trade. It's possible to set indicators to monitor these types of things. It's also possible to monitor the efforts that are made by the people who are doing the protection, the inspectors, the rangers, the community guards, people who are out there on the front line trying to protect and manage wildlife. And so we're going to hear next week from Michael more about this particular case in the Russian Far East. And in the Russian Far East, I think it's 8 years now, is that, Michael, that you've been using SMART there? There are 7 or 8 tiger reserves where SMART has been set up, and it's now working very effectively in some of those reserves. And here are some of the results from implementing SMART at one of the sites, one of the better sites in the Russian Far East, where we see efforts by rangers, efforts by the inspectors increasing, and indicators of poaching decreasing. So we're going to hear more about that case next week. This week, we're going to be hearing about Mongolia and what's happening in the Gobi region, where people are monitoring iconic wildlife that are prey species for snow leopards and the snow leopards themselves. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how SMART is being used to manage information about poaching in this very extensive landscape in the Gobi region. And so it's possible to map the distributions of wildlife and the distributions of carcasses, for example. And you see here a map showing just that information in Mongolia. It's like I mentioned, it's also possible to evaluate the coverage of patrols, the efforts made to do protection and park patrolling. And so here's an example showing rangers that are part of the multi-agency protection unit, or MAPU. They're on the job around the clock doing their patrolling in the Gobi Desert. And there's some of the results from their work in 2020. In the third week of our training, we're going to hear from our WCS Mongolia team. They're going to be presenting about how they're using SMART and the SMART tools and how it's being used in Mongolian language. And this is really exciting because SMART is now translated into a range of languages. It's in Russian, it's in Mongolian, it's in Chinese, and potentially it can be in other languages too. So if you get interested in SMART and you think it's something that you would like to use on a regular basis, and you have a case for wanting to use SMART across a number of sites where you have a local language that is not part of the languages that is covered by SMART, please let us know, because we may be able to organize a translation of the software. Okay, so the first thing is, SMART is a wonderful tool, but it may not be what you need. So you need to decide whether SMART is really something that you are ready to use, and is it a tool that you actually need? So here's some questions that you need to ask yourselves and your colleagues. Do you already have other monitoring mechanisms that that address your management and law enforcement monitoring needs? If you don't have a system already for managing patrolling data, for monitoring law enforcement efforts, then maybe SMART could be useful to you. Do you know what you're trying to achieve as your conservation management goals? You have to have some goals and targets before you go and start using SMART. Because if you don't have targets and goals, if you don't have plans, then SMART may not necessarily help you. But if you have some goals and objectives, SMART is something that can be very useful. And we're going to talk about how you can use SMART to plan patrols, and how you can create reports in this session tonight. Now, based on your understanding of SMART, can SMART help you in achieving these goals? Do you have the basics in place to implement SMART? So at your site, is it just you who's working, or do you have rangers? Do you have a park manager? Do you have other staff? Because you need people to assume the roles of people to use the SMART tools. You need people to collect data. You need somebody assigned to manage the data and to look at the reports coming out of SMART. So all of these are questions that you need to think about. So when you are preparing to implement SMART, if you've decided that you are going to actually use SMART as a tool, the first thing you probably want to do is to develop an analysis of the threats and challenges facing management of your protected area or your site. Where are the threats? Where are they coming from? Who's causing them? And are there solutions? that can involve law enforcement and patrolling. You need to define what the needs are for gathering for your data. What kinds of data do you want to have? And how are you going to collect that data? Do you have rangers out there who are able to spend time doing patrolling? Do you have people, ecological, biological monitoring staff or survey staff who are available to go out and collect data? Do you have community volunteers who may be available to help collect data? You need to develop a data model, and you need to develop protocols for collecting the data, and SMART can help you to do that. And you need to identify how information is going to be absorbed by the park authority or agency, and how that's going to be fed back to the people on the ground. You need to configure your SMART database. We're going to talk about that tonight. You need to set up the database with all the information, the employee lists, the agencies and ranks, the shapefiles. You need to identify what the data model is, and you need to also make a plan for training. You need to train people how to fulfill the roles of the people managing the SMART deployment. So all of these things need to be done before you start. You can't just download the software and then jump in and start doing SMART. No, you need to think very, very carefully about all of these things first. All right, so one of the things that SMART is designed to help you with is to organize information and present it in such a way that it can be understood by the people who need to make decisions. So the park managers, the community leaders, the people who are managing your site. And so it's possible to design formats for reporting. And here we see a couple of examples of SMART reports. On the left-hand side, we see a very, very simple report, which is called an infographic report. It's a very visual type of report that just shows pictures and numbers, that shows information that can be absorbed very quickly and understood very quickly by people that are out there in the field. On the right-hand side, we see a more sophisticated map with some more detailed information, some track logs, and a map showing the spatial coverage of patrols. So this kind of report would be designed for a park manager or a senior official who has got to make decisions about where to allocate the resources for protection. So SMART has a role in adaptive management, and here is essentially how it works. You have people collecting data, the rangers. You have people inputting the data into the SMART database. Then you have people who, maybe the same people as the people who are importing data. They are creating analyses and running queries and summaries and creating reports. And then that information has to be fed back, has to be considered by the park authorities or the site management, and then interpreted and then evaluated. And then information goes into strategic planning, and that information is then fed back to the front line in the form of patrol plans. So in a sense, this is a cycle or a feedback loop where SMART is right in the center. So you can imagine your site, think of your site and think whether your site has each of these different points in the circle. Is data collection going on? Is data entry going on? Is analysis going on? Is there debriefing and interpretation of information? And is patrol planning going on? So SMART has evolved as a protected area management platform that is not just a database for storing patrol data, but it's a database where we can store information from surveys, from camera traps, from line transect surveys. It's a place where you can store information about illegal wildlife crime, about poaching. You can bring in information from other sources, from reports from the community, from a wildlife crime hotline. All of that information can be brought in and used in the sense of developing information for management. So SMART is really a protected area management platform that does many different things. And at its core, we have the SMART desktop and the mobile application. And we're going to be learning about those things in the training. Okay, so here's some statistics. SMART was released in 2013. It's a publicly available set of tools. You don't have to pay for them. You don't have to buy a license. All you need to do is to sign up on the SMART website and enter your name and register as a SMART user. And once you're registered, then you get access to the SMART tools, the training handbooks, brochures, information, and that includes all the language versions of the software too. So there's been a great take-up of SMART over the last 10 years, and now there's more than 850 sites around the world that are using SMART. And here we see in Asia, we've got sites all the way from the Russian Far East to Afghanistan in the West, through South Asia, right down to Indonesia. So there are some 230 sites, I believe, or maybe a little more than that, maybe 280 sites in Asia using SMART, and a number of government organizations have decided to adopt SMART as their tool for managing information across the national networks and protected areas. So countries like Bhutan, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, these countries have adopted SMART. So SMART is now, it's a proven and successful way of managing information and a tool for helping to improve the way protected areas are managed. At the same time, it's owned by the community, and changes and upgrades are done on the basis of the needs of the community. So if you see a feature or a function that is missing in the tools, you can ask for that to be developed, and we will put it to our user council. And if it's agreed that that tool or feature should be included in the SMART tools, then it will be developed and will be added in. So everything comes from the bottom up. It's community owned and driven. It's free. Like I said, it's open source software. It's supported by a global community of practitioners. And once you sign up once you register for SMART, you become part of the SMART Forum. And I think, Monica, there's 400 or 500 members of the SMART Forum now. These are users that are people that are out there using SMART around the world. And anytime you have a question or a problem, you can write to the community forum and you can get an answer. It's possible to adapt SMART to the needs of your organization, to create queries and summaries, data models, and reports that match the information needs of the agency that you're working with. There's a long-term sustainability plan to make sure that SMART does not become redundant or it stops evolving and being useful. It's continuously being improved and updated, and we're now in SMART version number 6, and in just a few months, SMART version 7 is going to be released. All right, so how is SMART being made available to users around the world? We have a thing called the SMART Partnership, which is a group of 9 organizations that have been working together for 10 years now to develop the SMART tools and make them available. So we have a long-term vision for how SMART is going to be used by the conservation practitioners, and it's something that makes SMART a really useful thing to have. So SMART is supported by many different organizations and agencies, and these are just some of the people who are providing support for SMART. Yeah, so that is kind of an overview of SMART, and I just wanted to go over a couple of things before we do the demonstration. If you're interested in getting a hold of the software, and I think I sent around an email a couple of days ago, all you have to do is go to the SMART website, which is smartconservationtools.org, and sign up to have access to the SMART software. So just you you press that little green button at the top of the screen that says download smart. This screen comes up and it says, have you filled in this form before? If no, click no, and it's going to ask you your name and your email. Once you've registered that information, then you can download the materials. So once you've filled that in, then you're going to be shown a screen that looks like this. And this is where you can download the Smart Desktop software. The software is available in 3 different versions, in Windows, in Mac, OS X, and also in Linux. So there should be a version that matches your particular needs. All right, so once you download the Smart installation software, it's downloaded as a zip file, and you simply double-click on the installation file and follow the instructions to install it on your hard drive. And there's a little exe file that looks like the thing that the arrow is pointing to, the Smart exe file here. So that is the thing that starts the desktop software.